Creamer Media's Engineering News and Mining Weekly is interviewing Colin Loubser, the General Manager of Hive Hydrogen, which has taken new steps aimed at investing 105 billion rand in a gigascale green ammonia project in South Africa's Eastern Cape. Hive Hydrogen South Africa has signed a memorandum of cooperation with Itochu of Japan. Why was this done, and how and when do you expect South Africa's proposed green ammonia project to benefit from this memorandum of cooperation?
The main purpose was because Itochu is probably leading the world at the moment in the new clean fuel sector for green hydrogen and green ammonia. They have a very large team working on this throughout the Far East and globally. And as you know, they have also signed a MOU with Sasol some time ago. But this is a different context. So what we are hoping to achieve here is really to set up a roadmap to ensure the product sizing, the phases, the strategic partners are all aligned, to also ensure we get the best cost of finance and to really make sure we have the lowest priced ammonia. So we're seeing this an evolving situation where particularly our site in Coega and all the dynamics around it have led us to a lower price of green ammonia than virtually anywhere else in the world. So we're really excited about that. And we see blue ammonia as the major competitor to green. So we have to be the same price or lower than them. And we're working with Itochu to find out how to do that and make sure that the financing is the lowest possible to achieve that. Not only the first phase, a future 3 phases also need to be looked at. So the memorandum of cooperation will cover the entire scope of the project and then how we deliver this lowest cost of green ammonia.
If all goes well, when will the 1 million tons of green ammonia likely be produced at Hive's Hydrogen Green Ammonia project at Coega?
Our project plan is working to start producing in August 2028. So we are hoping to reach a final investment decision. That means all the bankable feasibility studies are completed and all the environmentals and so on are concluded. We're hoping to achieve that by the end of 2024. So not that long to go in real terms. We're quite advanced and we're on track for that. And then do the construction from 25 onwards to be commissioned in 2028.
And talking finance, how will Hive Hydrogen South Africa fund 105 billion rand that is required to build this pioneering project?
70% of the funding will come from debt and 30% of the funding will come from strategic partners across particularly the Far East and with some European part as well. We're just looking at a very tight-knit set of strategic partners. And this is also part of our discussion with Itochu and our cooperation agreement to make sure these partners fit the project so everyone is aligned in the long-term goals.
And when will tenders likely be invited for the construction, and what operational and upkeep arrangements are being made for this plant?
We are preparing tenders at the moment. We have done most of the legal work, which is also the most expensive part of it, and that set the scene. So we're busy putting out a request for information in certain areas. This is an ongoing process as we're doing pre-feed studies at the moment. We'll start our feed process, so the front-end engineering design process in January next year. And then the tenders will come out shortly after the conclusion of that process. So in July 2024 is when the tenders will start to come out.
Where will the 3.6 gigawatt of initial renewable energy capacity required for this project be located, and when will it be in place?
We'll start building it in 2025, early 25. It is going to be located in 3 main areas. Just outside the R's, we're locating our solar, and our wind is around the Beaufort West area, particularly north and south of Beaufort West. And then obviously we have a large grid strengthening program to ensure that that comes online. And the most important thing is that the whole grid strengthening program, which involves upgrading certain lines and improving substations and adding substations, will not only enable our 3.6 gigawatts on the grid, but will also enable another 14.4 gigawatts or 14,400 megawatts of other independent power producers to get onto the grid. It's quite an enabling project. We're going to make more capacity for the grid, enabling 14 gigawatts and only using 3.6 additional to that. We are looking at doing some direct connections into the project as well as more grid connection. One of the most important things that Eskom is doing and plans to be operational by around 29 is to put in the two 765 kV lines, transmission lines, which is about 10 gigawatts of capacity from Gamma to Grassridge. And that will become the core feature for our project for the latter phases. So we don't need that line for phase 1, but we will need it for phases 2, 3, and 4. And we'll be utilizing some of that capacity as well as some directly connected capacity. But we will still have some off-grid wind and solar, and we will be building some of our own transmission lines to the plant for the later phases. And each phase is going to need around 3 to 4 gigawatts of power. We're expecting in the region of 20,000 people to be employed, obviously a large number of construction jobs. And because this is a multi-phase project, we're hoping to time the construction jobs so that we have a full 16-year period over which we can employ the people, and it's not construction job just for a short period, then stop, and then re-employ and then stop. So that's also a very big part of what we're doing. We visited on site yesterday with some of our investors. They have the Coger Development Corporation. We're very forward thinking in what they've done, and they put up a number of training facilities for upskilling. We already have a database or access to their database of 458,000 people with various skills. So we know what skills are available. We know how we're going to have to upskill, and we know what resources we need for that. And all of that is based in Nelson Mandela Bay. And that is really one of the critical components of the project, that we have that resource here. And then obviously there's a tertiary education capability at Nelson Mandela Bay University, which are developing a curriculum now, particularly for the green ammonia, green hydrogen space. So ideal location with all the resources, with all the trainers in situ, and we have the database. So we know what that looks like right now. We know that there's upskilling required, but our focus is to employ as close to 100% South African as we can. So we're really not looking at bringing any foreign labor forces for this project at all. It'll all be recruited here, upskilled here, and delivered here, with a few really specialist positions being brought in and hopefully then on training. But there's a huge amount of work being done by the Department of Science and Innovation right now and by the university to make sure we're all aligned in getting those skills into the country so we can attract electrolyzer manufacturers and component manufacturers and the right factories as well, because this isn't just about the Hive project. It's about what the Hive project can bring to South Africa in addition to just the hydrogen and ammonia plant. There's plenty more industrial investments that could result as a result of the project.
How will you ensure that the just energy transition is made possible in Gqeberha with your project?
So ours is what we call a just energy aligned, transition aligned project. And we say it's aligned because we're ahead of the curve. We're actually ahead of where the just energy transition is. And we don't want to confuse what we're doing with the just energy transition funding. Our funding for the project doesn't come from JET. So that's why we say we're aligned. Right from the get-go, first of all, the project meets all the climate change criteria necessary, and that's the main reason for it. But also, Gqeberha is one of these really difficult places at the moment economically, lowest domestic product per capita, highest unemployment rate in any metro, So the just energy transition needs to take place here almost as a greater imperative in the rest of the country. So from that point of view, we're very much aligned with it, and will have a very positive impact and meet all the pillars of the just energy transition.
And what gives Hive Hydrogen confidence that the port, the road, the rail, the power infrastructure will be appropriate to enable the export of 1 million tons of green ammonia a year as a start?
We have our own internal engineers. We have a system of owners engineers who, I might add, are probably the highest skilled in the country. And then we have third-party validation that we're all doing ourselves. And then the lenders and the investors do their own validation. So there's 4 tiers of validation on the project to make sure that we deliver the 1 million tons of green ammonia. And these are all the top brains, all highly bankable, well-known engineering firms, financial firms, and legal firms. And that's a big part of this project, is actually making sure that you can deliver. And I must say, the state-owned enterprise that we're working with, we have seen in the last year and even the last months, a massive commitment to our project, huge resource commitment, on all fronts. So Coger Development Corporation are leading that, obviously have a great reputation and have done incredibly well. But we've seen Transnet come really strong with their reorganization and putting some fantastic resources into the project. We've managed to move a few things around to expedite things and take the pressure off them. And what they're doing in Coger is remarkable. So we've very heavily invested in the region, and we see how vested they are in our project. So we're pleased about that. And then predominantly the question everybody asks is, what about Eskom? Well, all I can say is the commitment Eskom is showing for our project at the moment is unbelievable. And we're getting huge cooperation. We were on site with them yesterday at Dedisa with a massive team. And the same is to be said with the municipality. They were also supporting the project full steam. So we are seeing where the changes are coming in South Africa. There's a lot of negative press around some of the state-owned enterprises. But I think in the background, the hard work that is being done by Dr. Ramachoppa, particularly in the Ministry of Electricity, and by the SIP, the Strategic Integrated Project side of things in the government and in public works, have been starting to really show dividends. So they've geared up quietly geared up over the last year, and I think are delivering some very good work. And I must say, the caliber of people we're dealing with is excellent. So we've seen a real maturing of how the state-owned enterprise are interacting as well. And then obviously there's this interface with the educational side, Department of Science and Innovation, and the Nelson Mandela Bay University to deliver the full package.
Why does the world need green ammonia? What convinces Hive that it can supply it at a competitive price? And is there any danger of oversupply?
Well, no, there's no danger of oversupply. We see another 50 projects of our scale being executed, and that probably not even being enough for what's going to happen. So green ammonia, and if you look at COP28 and the ambitions of what the world wants to see in terms of getting rid of fossil fuel, perhaps not enough commitment in some areas, but the green ammonia and green hydrogen industries are now unstoppable, I believe. And the reason for that is the world has to switch to clean fuels. And I think a lot of people are getting stuck on climate change and questioning climate change. And all I would say is if you don't believe climate change is a result of carbon in the atmosphere, that's fine. You don't have to believe that. But fossil fuels is not the only damage they create. They create massive pollution, huge health problems. Over 8 million people a year die from fossil fuel pollution. And overall, the benefits to the world of switching away from fossil fuels to the clean fuels of green ammonia, green hydrogen, the benefits are enormous, not only for the climate, but for all those other areas. So we don't see that demand changing, and I think the press has really got their teeth into the climate change side, but they need to get their teeth into the other ill effects of fossil fuels. If you look at things like the Exxon Valdez crisis, things like what's happened in the Gulf Coast, the huge negative effect on marine species, particularly, heavy fuel and diesel getting put into the ocean. These issues are also massive problems for us. So the only way to solve that and help reduce global warming by reducing the amount of carbon emissions is to go for clean fuels like hydrogen and green ammonia, which can be produced by renewable energy. So there's more than meets the eye. I think at the moment the benefits definitely are there for clean fuels, and the world has to go that way. It's unstoppable in our view. The press generally are focusing on some of the issues and not the others. And the questions you've asked, I think, are all really good. They're very pertinent to the project. But it would be good for the press to really make the case for green ammonia and green hydrogen outside of just the climate change issues we have. There's a much broader impact here of fossil fuels on the globe. And I think the integrated approach, not only to building these projects, but what else we are doing, is also something that needs greater publicity. So, for example, we're planting 18,000 trees a day at the moment as a Hive for carbon sequestration. We want to double that quite soon. And we have a host of projects on this sort of size in place in Portugal. We've got a carbon sequestration project, a massive project there, and we're looking at other parts of the world. But I think the holistic approach is really what needs more publicity. If we can broaden the scope of what we're trying to achieve holistically, not just to create jobs, which are crucial, but fix the environment, which will help obviously with people's livelihoods, fix the environment, which will help with their health, and create obviously a situation for investment. We need to look into some of the positives now. The state-owned enterprise improvements are really remarkable. I mean, we can't believe the difference in some of the major state-owned enterprises' approach to our project, particularly over the last 6 months, I would say. And more recently, we've just seen this seismic movement and input and high caliber input from the government. We've seen very positive steps from the government.
That was Creamer Media's Engineering News and Mining Weekly, speaking to Colin Loubser, the General Manager of Hive Hydrogen, which is intent on helping to decarbonize the world.